Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Saturday to you. Blessings, Shabbat Shalom. Greetings to everyone. We are so happy that are able to join us today for a wonderful session. I believe you'll get a lot out of this. We are talking about leading while bleeding, the science of letting go and what it takes to let go. It's easier said than done. So, we have today some of the best leading minds with us today to talk about the science of it. So, we have clinicians and we who are also spiritual leaders. We are blessed to have that duality with us because I know sometimes that's something that we struggle with. Where do we go? Do we go to the church or do we go seek, professional medical mental health help? Well, today we are so blessed to have this blend that we are able to offer you today. I would like to introduce to you the president, the CEO, the founder, the mastermind behind this series, Reverend Dr. Shirley Pierre Robertson. Um, she, I'll let you take the stage so we can get going.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Margot, and welcome to everyone in the global village, wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I want to say welcome to this global town hall meeting. And this meeting is one of the creations of New Dimensions Global. We're a global mental health initiative. We're advocating for mental health and spirituality, merging the two together so that you can become the person that you are, your authentic self. We're dealing specifically from the aspect of trauma that keeps building trauma upon trauma. And many times we're having difficulty in terms of letting go of those things that easily beset us. So as leaders, bleeding while leading, we are really here today to understand what it is that causes us to have such a difficult time in letting go of those experiences that we have encountered in life, whether it was early childhood, whether it was in your teens, or things that you are recently encountering, but those things that seem to be so difficult for you to let go. Today, as our moderator said, we have a cadre of professionals who would help us to dig deep, do a deep dive, so that we could do, as Alvin Toffler said, he said that the new illiterate of the 21st century would be the one who refuses to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So guess what we want to do? We want to unlearn, we want to learn first our truth. What is truth? What it is that is keeping us back from letting go. What is the process? What are the strategies that we can use so that we can move forward with our lives, especially as leaders? We know that if you're leading and bleeding, that then you're not really the role model that you ought to be for the team that you're leading. So when you can face your truth and take care of your issues, then you're better able to help those on your team. When they see truth coming from you, then it gives them like the opportunity. It opens the door for them to say, if my leader can be so transparent and say this is what's going on with heaven or earth at this point in time, then surely I can knock on that door and I can ask for a moment or so to sit and talk about what's going on with me, what are the issues I'm dealing with, what it is that is preventing me from performing at my best. We want to know what that narrative is so that we can leave those things, forgetting those things that are behind and moving forward to those things that are before. So it's personal for me because of the struggles that I have had in terms of letting go and still continue to have, even as a leader, things that I still struggle with. So this is a safe place, a place where we can dialogue and help each other to learn, and then once we learn, we can know, well, this thing doesn't make sense. It's time for me to unlearn, get rid of this false narrative that I keep carrying around with me, that I keep going around like the children of Israel in the wilderness for 40 years with the same old issue, and I can't let it go. Instead of going forward and rising, I'm still doing the same old things. So we're going to unlearn today, and then we're going to relearn those things that we learned today. We're going to put them into action, and we're going to relearn about how we can let go and have peace instead of our lives being in pieces. So I want to thank the speakers that are with us here today and thank the moderator for saying yes as well to be part of this narrative. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to the moderator. So I'm saying to us, let's go. Let's do it. We're ready.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Regina. Well, let's go right on into our program today. We will first start off with Dr. Jerry Beasley. And what she will be talking about and giving us insight on is leading with scars and turning personal pain into professional power, with a particular focus on leveraging personal struggles and to lead with empathy and authenticity. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Beasley.
Listen, I am so delighted to be with you on today from all over the world. I am grateful. We had snow here in Houston, Texas, and so I am so excited about that fact that we're out of the snow now and we're here talking to you. First of all, I want to say this. I want my P in my name is Jerry P. Beasley. That P is important. Okay,
All
that
right.
P has power to it. I'm just breaking the ice a little bit, but that P is important, girl.
All
And your
right.
hair looks so good. I just want to make sure you know that your
All
hair
right.
is flawless on today. Okay. And so I know that we've getting started and there's some little niches and some things that are going on behind the scenes. And the song came to me, and it's not an actual song. It's not like a worship song, but it's like a worship song. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard this song. And it says, it's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Ha, 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 ha. Sing it with me. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. And that's the anthem. That's the anthem for this whole conversation we're getting ready to have on today. It's like a jungle sometimes. And as we're leading, it'd be like a jungle. And we're wondering how we keep from going under. But I know how I keep from going under is I stay in the presence of the Lord. And that's real. How can you stay in the presence of the Lord and still be before people? Easily. I know how to tune people out now. I had to learn that because I had a nervous breakdown so many years ago coming out of college. And they diagnosed me with bipolar schizophrenia. And so if you've ever had to do any time in a mental institution, you realize those people crazy for real. And I thought I was playing crazy, but I realized crazy really does exist. And since I saw that crazy existed, I don't like crazy. So anything crazy, I choose not to get involved in it. And there's so many crazy things going on in the world right now. I choose not to get involved in it. I choose to stay in the presence of God. I choose to keep my sanity, even when stuff doesn't work like I want it to work. As we're getting ready to do this on today, I begin to see all kind of distractions. And I said, that's just like the enemy. He's going to always bring distractions at the time you need to be the most focused. But the beautiful thing about that is God's children know how to shift gears. I do a thing on Facebook called a Holy Ghost drive-by, and that's where I just pull up on you in the Holy Ghost and give you what thus said the Lord. So I'm gonna just pull up on you real quick and give you what thus said the Lord today. The fact that she has me the first speaker, at first I was like, I don't do the first speaker. I've never done the first speaker. I'm always at the end. But he said, no, this is prophetic. I've been saying kingdom visionary, kingdom visionary. He said, we're coming from kingdom visionary now to forerunner. You got the vision, now you got to run with it. And you're going to have to sometimes run by yourself. You're going to have to sometimes run ahead when everybody else doesn't know why you're detaching, why you're moving, why you're going ahead. Listen, we got to go ahead because there are some things that are coming that those that have the ability need to know when to run. And it's time to run, Forrest, run ahead and see what the end's going to be. And so today, as we get prepared for leading while bleeding, I want to make sure that we don't think that's a flex to lead while bleeding. No, I don't want to lead while bleeding because leading while bleeding means I'm bleeding on you. I'm frustrated. I'm mad at you. There was a young boy one time at my church, an old church that I used to go to, and he was the cutest little boy till he got on my nerves. And I would make him laugh, and I don't know why I made him laugh, but even when I was serious, he was always laughing. Oh, Minister B, you're funny. This particular day, I didn't feel like being funny. This particular day, I was bothered. And he said, make me laugh, Minister Beasley, make me laugh. I said, make you laugh? I ain't your clown. And before I knew it, he cried. I said, why did I holler at that child? But it came to me that you were frustrated. You were tired of being the hype man when you couldn't get no help, man. Always being the one to uplift somebody else and was feeling depleted myself. And he was just a unsuspecting victim at that time. And I had to make him laugh so he wouldn't go crying to his mama. Do you ever feel like telling somebody, I'm not your clown? I don't feel like making you laugh. I'm bothered. You can't see that I'm going through something right now that I'm stressing. Just the other day when we were getting prepared to do this and we had a meeting, I had 4 flat tires. I have 4 flat tires in the middle of the snow. I didn't go nowhere and I come outside. So I had to get AAA. I had to go to the car place to get these tires. No, I didn't have 4 flat tires. I had 1 flat tire. But when I got there, the woman told me, you need 4 tires. I said, you need to stop lying. I don't need 4 tires. I need that 1 tire. But after she walked me around the car, I was like, oh, girl, I need these 4 tires. But as I was there, I was like, man, I was frustrated because there was so many bills that I've had to pay already. So many things unexpectedly financially has come up. So I was trying to text Dr. Shirley to tell her I wasn't going to be able to make the call because I wasn't going to be in time to make the call. Truthfully, I wasn't in the mood to make the call because I had a lot on my mind. But for some reason, I could not push that sin to Dr. Shirley. I said, girl, you got to push your way through. And I'm so glad that I did. Can I tell you before I get ready to leave here? This is going to be one of those times you're going to have to push your way through. This is going to be a time you may not feel like doing it. This is going to be a time that all hell will break loose, but you got to roll on anyway. It was a time that I looked outside and I had a flat tire and thought I was just going to buy 1 tire and ended up having about 4 tires, but I had to roll on anyway. And I'm glad that I did it because it's going to take me further. It's going to allow me to be balanced. And I'm like, whoa, no wonder I was leaning to the side. I did need some new tires. There's going to be a time you're going to have to look around and say, you know what? I'm going to need these new tires. I'm going to need this new mindset because some things are coming that the old mindset won't get you there. The old mindset won't take you there as fast as you need to go. We're going from visionaries to forerunners. We got to run ahead and tell them what the end's going to be. We got to run ahead and warn somebody. We got to run ahead and prepare some things for others. I've been working on some things at the radio station. God told me it's time for some hubs in this city. There's some places, safe places that people need to be able to go to. It's not a church, not a pastor. Please don't put that on me. But I do know what I've been called to do. I do know that God has allowed me and afforded me the opportunity to have a building with so much space to do so many things. And I don't see it just as a radio station. He said it's a hub where people are going to come to a safe place and be able to get their needs met. A hub is a central location where people can get what they need. And a lot of us that's on this line, we're hubs, we're central location, and people are coming to get what they need. But he also wants us to be able to go where we can get some things that we need as well. So I pray that this day, this opportunity that we're taking to speak to you will be your hub, will be your safe place to say, I don't feel like being your joke today. In fact, my shirt says it. I wrote the right shirt. It says, I do not have the energy to pretend like I like you. Now, I don't wear it out because somebody might think I'm being salty, but I did buy it. I'm like, I do not have the energy to pretend like I like you. Meaning, I don't have the energy to play games at this time. I don't have the energy to mix with bad energy. I don't have the energy to question this and question that. If it's a duck, it's a duck, and I'm going to leave it at a duck. And so when we get real with ourselves, we can be real with others and we can lead the right way. The 2019 leader is not the same 2025 leader. I lead differently now. I had a young lady come to me and she's working with me now. She's from Vietnam. And she said, I'm shy. I said, oh, you're not going to be shy around me. I can't afford you to be shy right now because I'm in the forefront and I need you to speak up. There's some things you're getting ready to do for me and I'm going to need you to voice yourself. The 2019 would have been, oh, baby, let me walk you through it. No, baby, you got to come on with it if you're going to be with me. And she did it. And we're doing it. Can I say this as I get ready to close? As a leader in 2025, you don't have the privilege to be shy. You don't have the privilege to be bothered. You may be a little bothered, but you're going to have to get over it. You may be agitated because the baby crying or somebody's pulling on you on doing that. But when you have an assignment, because I've been in radio over 35 years, and when that on-air light goes on, I don't care what I went through the day before, it's on air. In 2020, I took a break as God directed me. Many people didn't see me on flyers. They didn't see me going anywhere. It wasn't because I wasn't asked. I was told to take a break from the Lord. Do you know it's okay to take a break? I thank God I had a job still that I could still go to. But other than that, it was close the door and stay a while till this affliction passes by. There may be a time you may have to take a break so you don't bleed on people. May have to be a time you're going to have to get your mind together before you work on the minds of others. Because crazy can't cast out crazy. And we have to all be sane in the days to come to do what God has called us to do. So welcome to leading while bleeding. And I pray the bleeding stops today. This is my story and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jerry P. Beasley. All right. I have we really enjoyed that presentation. Thank you for being so transparent. A few things I took from it that I'd like to ask you about. Um, I like what you said. I do not have the energy for, and you named off a myriad of things that you know that you just don't have the energy for. I'm wondering, can you speak to Black women at this time? Um, when I look around, it looks like, they were mobilized, empowered, and energized. And when things didn't quite happen how, was expected, um,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden we're looking around and while every leader, as you said, needs rest, but
Mm-hmm.
those women who have been mobilized, some are a little lost. What do we do next? We were so fired up, and now who's speaking? Understanding Oprah and Michelle Obama and a lot of folks need rest, but doesn't seem to be a central figure who's speaking to those women who are tired, who are hurt, who are disillusioned. I'm wondering if you can give a word of encouragement to them, especially, things are spooky now. I'm saying spooky,
Mm-hmm.
but we know they're not ultimately. But can you
Mm-hmm.
speak to those women who might be a little lost right now?
Yeah, we're the forerunners. We're those women. We're those women that speak to the soul of a woman that's feeling depressed, despondent. As much as I like and love Kamala Harris, she wasn't going to be my God, but I was inspired by her. I was blessed by her. I even worked with her, but she wasn't my God and she wasn't my hope. She was that sister girl that I could say, I see you. I'm proud of you. Go for it. So when she did not win, I am a woman of faith. I knew that she wasn't supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I knew she wasn't supposed to. And I'm happy for her because she can get herself together and regroup and rethink and restructure and relaunch when God says so. But for the sister, for us as Black women, yeah, we're tired. And the Oprahs are tired and the Michelle Obamas are tired. And I agree with her. I wouldn't have went anywhere either because I'm tired. And I'm going to take me a minute because I've been a strong Black woman. I'm a strong Black woman now. You're a strong Black woman. We're all strong Black women. But at some point, this sister got to say, you know what, God, I need to be refilled again before I go try to fill somebody else up. Because what I don't want to do is bleed on people. And so it's okay to get a therapist. It's okay to get a relationship, a real relationship. I don't have a church relationship. I have a real relationship with God. And there are days that I go to him and I cry. It was days when I saw that I needed 4 brand new tires after I spent 5,000 on something else and was like, oh, this ain't gonna work. Okay. He said it is gonna work. What else you gonna do? You're gonna roll on. And so there are some times, and forgive me, but we're free. This is a safe place. We're gonna have to put our big girl drawers on and say, yeah, that hurt.
Yeah.
That really hurt. I
Mm-hmm.
took a licking, but we keep on ticking, but we don't lie and say it doesn't hurt. Because I can guarantee you there's another woman that hurts like you, and together you can both stop hurting and mobilize yourselves and do something great and something powerful. So I say, ask God to send you. And I just talked about this in a meeting a moment ago, your target audience, your target group of intercessors, your target group of cheerleaders that are not just hype, but they're help. And he has them. And until he sends them, be good with being to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have time for fake energy because I don't have time to be fake energy. People need too much, and I need too much right now.
All right. All right. And if you will permit, if you will allow in this safe space, I heard you say that you were diagnosed with bipolar disorder at some point in your
Mhm,
life. Um, I don't really want to go into that so much, but
mhm,
something that I was struck by, a pretty popular artist
mhm,
um, gave his truth to the social media atmosphere, saying that he was raped by another prominent artist.
mhm,
Some believed him, some didn't. But on his social media, he's very free talking about the fact that he has bipolar disorder. He walks us through his manic when he's his manic episodes sometimes, but we're able
mhm,
to really see he still has not found the balance to it. I was struck to see the other day that he's headed to the Netherlands to end his life
mm,
because he could not, and we're following this journey. Some are following this journey on social media. And we're seeing more and more people diagnosed with
mm,
bipolar disorder. And again, Jennifer Lewis, another prominent actress, was very vocal about it in her book, and
mhm,
very vocal about sometimes there is that struggle in the beginning to find what works for you,
mhm.
and to find it can be a very specific thing in what works for you. Is there any advice that you can give someone out there who maybe has been diagnosed but says, what they're giving me so far hasn't worked, so I'm just not going to do anything? Can you
Mm.
give us some advice on what steps they can do? Or even if you think there might be something a little, what advice do you give? Can you give our audience in the management of it, or even to go and seek help if you think some of the symptoms might pertain to you, and what has helped you?
Stay on the medication. I'm a believer in the medication, okay? Because medication did help me, but it wasn't medication alone. It was medication in the Word of God. It was medication and detaching from everything that was not good for me. My mother, at that time, I was still in college at that time, she said, give me 1 year of your life. And I don't want you talking to anybody right now. I don't want you hanging out with anybody. And let me walk you through this. And I surrendered because I didn't like being off. And so it was going to church, it was reading the Word of God, and it was taking the medication. It was affirmation because I used to say, I no longer take medication. And I kept saying it until I no longer took medication. I know, but I was also an alcoholic, so I was drinking. I no longer drink anymore. And I said that until I no longer drink anymore. So I say it's practical steps. First, you got to recognize you really have a problem, because most people that have bipolar, or most people that are in a manic, they like the manic. They like being high. They like being the euphoria and being able to do all this. So it's kind of hard to get them to stabilize themselves. So the hospital was necessary for me, and it may be necessary for others. But I will say this, that in this season, and Jennifer Lewis is one of my favorite actors. I love her. Um, Most people that are highly creative, we have those ups and we have those lows. I won't say that I don't still have ups and lows. I just have to learn how to balance them. And I won't say it's mania, and I won't say that it's bipolar. I'll say that it's because sometimes I can't turn my brain off because I'm creating. And I'm so excited about what I'm creating. And when I'm around people that are not creative and they're like, I don't know how we're going to do that, that really irritates me. So I really could kind of stay to myself for a while. But when I find that village of people that are just as creative, I'm going to say, you, the last time you did this, I was so inspired by the way you emceed and handled this. And so I'm like, girl, you better go. You better do this. You got me excited. When I went to the radio station the next day, I was excited because I saw somebody doing what I do. And I saw the passion that you have for doing it. So I say, get around people that are like-minded in your, whatever you call that. And that balances you out, because whenever you get around stuff that's totally opposite of you and you're trying to make that work, you're going to feel very depressed and very low and uninspired. So I don't get around stuff that doesn't inspire
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Do you, one last thing. Do you
me.
think that creative people, that they are more, because you look at them, creative minds, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of with that brain not turning off,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that they are more susceptible to diagnoses like these, because they're more sensitive to what they need to create, and the fact that they can maybe see a little beyond or feel a little more, or what do you think about that?
I'll say for me, and I'll just say this for me personally, God has revealed to me it was more spiritual for me. I saw what others didn't see. I heard what others couldn't hear. And so, of course, they had to put a label on it quickly to do that. And now I still see, in this ripe age of my age, I still see what I see. I still hear what I hear, but I now understand what it is.
Yeah.
And so when you understand the situation, you know how to walk through that situation. And I say that when you feel that, you need to speak to somebody that God may lead you to, that is on that level, to kind of walk you through it. I was a prophetess and didn't know it. I was a seer and wasn't told it. So until my mother got with me and groomed me and led me and taught me, that's how I got together. And so that's why I'm around people that's going to teach me something. And I can understand when I'm around people who, nah, that's cute, but that's not for me.
Mhm.
I know both. So
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being so transparent. Thank you for being you. And thank you for being a light. I mean, you're a light. So
oh, thank
thank
you.
you, Dr.
Same.
Jerry P. Beasley, for sharing with us the valuable information. Thank you. And stay on, because we've got some more later, to speak to the entire group. So right now, we are going to not waste any time and get on to the next guest. And our next guest is, one moment. Our next guest is Dr. Sonia Elliott. And today, Dr. Elliott will be talking to us about building a legacy of sustainable leadership. Welcome, Dr. Elliott. Her focus will be the long-term benefits of emotional release for sustainable leadership growth. Dr. Elliott, take it away.
Wow. Well, blessings to you. Thank you so much, Dr. Regina, for having me here today. And also, greetings to all these wonderful ladies that's on today. And I just want to say, Dr. Beasley, you really blessed me with your transparency today, because I know this is it's been a stigma for many, and you just opened it up in such a broad way, just sharing, that you actually take your medication and encouraging those to stay on their medication. because it does help understanding what it does. But today, I would like to just, because I'm trying to flow with how you were flowing, to just blend in. I know that the questions that were asked, and I will try to integrate it in what we're speaking on today. When it comes to the emotional, understanding the emotional release in, from trauma. Basically, trauma itself is something that is overwhelming, that your own mind cannot actually comprehend it. It's something that puts you in a place where you'll either freeze, you can't think, you can't move, you and when this goes over a period of time, that you keep on having the same thing happening to you in life. It's like you get a tetany if you keep beating something. It gets to a place where it's non-functional. And when we look at the even in the release stage of where you want to release your emotion, if you are not in a place that you even understand what your emotion is, it's difficult to say release. And you find that many who are going through these situations, because each situation, each person views it differently, and each person's makeup is different. And so you find that your entire being is affected, and you want to bring yourself to that balance to maintain your mental health, because that is the leading factor. Regardless, if you're physically capable, if you could be well built, but if mentally you're not in a place that you can even hold that together, that's where the difficulty comes in. It involves processing, it involves recognizing, it involves expression, it involves, and even processing your emotion. Some people, when you release information, by the time they receive it, it may be they receive it totally different to what you have said. So we find that when it comes to the emotional release, it's about allowing your emotion to surface. And as your emotion surfaces, then it comes with an expression. It comes with an expression that now the decision is to resolve what this expression is. And this is where it affects your mental health, based on where you are, how healthy you are mentally. And so we find that if we want to leave a legacy in this, now it's showing how we developed, how we understood exactly what was going on and what we did to make the change. Um, so when we see that emotions are really complex, and our response involves that physiological process, and then it's triggered by the neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters also are hormones, like serotonin, dopamine, and adrenaline, and these influence the mood. So first you have a reaction to something that tapped in your emotion, and then it's going to send off the secretion of certain hormones that is now going to show you what your mood will be: happy, joy, sad, or you may be angry or explode. And it even sends off physical sensation. So in trying to keep focus on the area of a legacy, now it is how we handle situations. Now, um, as certain situations is also has a cultural relation to it. In some cultures, your response to situations may be how you learn to respond. But does that mean that that is your true emotion? So you're learning a behavior in a culture. They say, there's some cultures that will say, hit you and say, don't cry. You feel in pain, but you can't cry. And so you can't respond to the pain the way how you would respond to the pain, say, ouch, because now you're being told, don't cry. So now your emotion is being programmed in a way that you should not respond to pain that way. So it brings us to the point where you are being taught how to feel, you've been taught how to react, but that is not your true reaction. So now coming to the place, now remember, you're being taught how to feel and how to act, but there's something going on in your body because now you are holding back your true emotion. And in the meantime, it is triggering your hormones that is now going to show up a mood because the hormones are very powerful. You may have one that causes you to laugh, one causes you to cry. This is why sometimes some people will laugh when you think they should be feeling pain, but they processed it in another way because it's like a protection for them. And so we're looking at that perspective of how people see pain, how people see trauma. And in the long run, the whole system, your whole body is going to react to whatever has happened. So we now we go into the place of where we build trust. Now there's that psychology of faith is literally trust. When you trust, you can trust that this is gone. This you trust God because you believe when He said it's gone, it's taken away, it's no longer there, and it allows you to move to the next phase of your healing. And so you find that the legacy that you will heal, you will leave, is that I learned to handle my situation by trusting God. And I learned to, and this is where my faith came in. So you find that in each situation, individuals will be handled differently based on where they're from or what their background is, what their teaching is. And so when we go to the leader is still an individual. So they're going to lead based on what they were programmed. Even though you may have gone through a leadership program, we're dealing with a person, we're dealing with the individual. And so that individual may now get into a place where they're doing well and they're being elevated, but that fear comes in. That fear can be very traumatic because that fear reminds them of the fear they had as a child when they were told they couldn't do certain things, even though that may have motivated them to do well. Now they're doing well. They can't do well because every time they try to move forward, there is a trigger. That trigger taking them back to the place of their childhood where they were stuck. And so you find that for as a leader to model healthy emotional practice, they now have to recognize that this is what's going on because it's familiar, and know that and believe and come to that place where we spoke of faith, we spoke of trust, come to that place to know that I have already gone through that. So now the mind, this is where a peace will come in when you start looking at it, that I have gone through that. I'm not there any longer. I am here now, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So we see that we're now putting faith in, the word of God in, and we're also connecting with our emotion. Many times not being able to move forward because we may have disconnected from our true emotion. And so now it comes to the point where pent up emotions have to be released. And that will help to clear whatever mental blockage there is. And so repressing the emotion also, it can cause a pressure where it affects one blood pressure. It can affect you physically. Not only will it affect you mentally, it affects your physical man. And so in there, we're going back into where hormones are secreted. Hormones are secreted because now there's a work going on in the inner man to bring you to a balance. Because whatever you think, it triggers. Whatever your thoughts are, it triggers something in your system. When it triggers it in your system, it now causes you to react. How do you leave a legacy in this place? You leave a legacy to where you now learn how you can adjust, how you can bring a change, and how you can make a difference that you will not keep this going forward. And so we want to incorporate the mind, emotion, and will in the oneness to where now we come in agreement with self that we can move forward. And you leave that legacy knowing that you have conquered that which has kept you back. You're in a place of conquering, you're in a place of power, and you're a place that you have overcome.
All right. You said a lot there. You said a lot there. One thing I do want to ask you about first, though, is that, when you talk about repressing, right? As a culture, as you talked about culture too, we are told a couple of things. One, that as women, we have to be strong, and you're a Black woman, and be strong, and you've got kids, and never let them see you sweat. We get even online, we get those, girl, you're a queen, put your head up high. Girl, don't let them see you sweat, or girl, don't even worry about that man. Don't worry about him. Just keep. But you're feeling the emotion, but you're being told not to acknowledge that emotion, because you got to keep going. You've got people looking at you. You're leading. Um, how do you make time to heal from whatever it is that you're going through, and get time to really address that while leading? How do you do that hand in hand?
The first thing is one has to really face the truth about where you really are. It is not to just, people will say what you should do, but there's a truth. And there's a truth about you, about the individual. There's a truth of, are you really acknowledging what you're feeling? Are you really being truthful to yourself? Because you owe it to yourself. And many of us really have no compassion towards ourselves. We have a way of just moving forward and being mechanical and feelings and not really feel. And that's a protective mechanism. So if I don't feel, then I won't hurt. But you literally are hurting because everything you're doing is going along with the pain. So as a leader, you really have to have that time out. You really have to take and be truthful to yourself. Because now, if you're just going to perform as a leader, you're not being truthful to the people around you. If you have to show them this, so you really need to take the time out for yourself to introspect and really look at what is going on around you so that you can literally heal. Because if you don't know, then you won't heal. If you don't acknowledge what you're feeling, you will not heal because you don't know. And so, therefore, we have to connect with self, connect with who we are, connect with the truth about ourselves, and really recognize when, not make it all fluff and make it looks all good. It's a lie. And in the body of Christ, as you're saying, how are you feeling today? I'm blessed and highly favored. And you're hurting and you can't, because something is holding you back from expressing it. So really, I would encourage that if you feel like crying, cry. If you are sad, then you want to know, why am I sad? What is it? David said, down, why is my soul downcast? What is it within me? And so therefore we need to really look within ourselves and find out where we are and what's really holding us back from moving forward.
All right, all right. I know we kind of touched on this a little bit the other day when we were talking, going through and discussing, this project. Um, there's something, so we're talking about science, right? And when we go back into ancient times or back into way back in Egypt, where we have a lot of our Black original scientists and
Mhm.
scientific theory coming from Egypt. And one of them is, since we're speaking science, the science of, one of them is the law of polarity, which pretty much says healed and unhealed. It's the
Mhm.
same thing. It's the same stick. You're
Mhm.
just on different spectrums
Mhm.
of it.
Mhm.
So if you're talking about, okay, this is me hurt and this is me healed, that
Mhm.
it's all the same thing. You're just experiencing different degrees of it.
Piece of it, yes.
So are you healed? You're just moving to balance. So what the reason why I'm asking this question is because some folks might understand polarity and understand what it means. Some
Mhm.
people have never heard of it. But I
Mhm.
think this one is very interesting for what you're saying and how to keep going while all of this is going on. It is well, it is not well. How do
Mhm.
I move along that the degrees of it to get to where I am well, but still, holding on to, trying to get there, but I'm here, but
Mhm.
knowing that all is really well, but I'm
Mhm.
trying to get there. How do you do that? So maybe you'll be able to explain what I'm saying a little bit more, but um, can
Well,
you
there's a verse in the Bible that said to press on, to go forward to the mark. And many times when you're moving away from the pain to being healed, on your journey, there are obstacles. And these obstacles are literally triggers that is within an individual that when you God has really shown you this is something you have already gone past, but you connect, you immerse in it. And so it's to recognize that when these triggers come up, because that's what holds you back from pressing, because you press into the other side. And so and the hardest part is when you're halfway on that polarity, when you're just ready to cross over, that you find that things get even worse because now you're now going over to a place of birthing into the newness. And you find that just as you're trying to cross over, all hell lets loose because you left all that stuff behind and you're now moving forward to the high calling. And in that place of that crossing over and moving is the most difficult place because you're now moving into a place of birthing. And to recognize that it may be, in birthing, the pain that's longer and stronger, but there's a birthing at the end. To know that, okay, I am pressing, I'm not going to give up, I'm not going to quit. Yeah, things may come to me, but I know I'm going to stay focused and press and keep going in this direction because I know at the end of the line there is a light there. There's a light waiting for me, and I'm going to press towards this light.
Thank you. It is well. It is always well.
Always well.
It is always well. Thank you so much, Dr. Elliott. As usual, you are a joy and bring a wealth of information. We thank you. Thank you for your time. So we keep going. We keep going. Now we have this. We have the art. There's an art to this. The art of release, letting go of toxic roles, relationships, and rhythms. And we are here with Dr. Eves, and she will talk us through identifying and shedding the internal and external forces that drain leadership capacity with that wonderful, soothing voice. I can't wait. Without any further ado, Dr. Eves Abraham, welcome.
You. Thank you so much. I am so delighted to be on this platform. Dr. Shirley, everyone in the background, everyone is doing such an amazing job. Thank you for your investment to this project. the two speakers, Dr. Elliott and Dr. Jerry. Thank you. You set the stage for my speech. So the Holy Spirit is here and helping us to flow. So that's delightful. All right. So the art, yes, there's an art to everything, and especially when it comes to toxic relationship, the rhythms, and so on and so forth. What I think I want to start off with is for us to understand that people are not going to change because we want them to.
Mm.
Yes, yes. And I think as leaders, there's this expectation, or even we see that the trade can seem unfair, right? When you look at the your part of the investment, where like the teacher and trainer type idea, you as the teacher, you training, you giving, constantly giving, and then there's an expectation that the other person will not only receive what you are saying, but they will receive it in a way where they reciprocate, right? And that's not always what we get. That's not always what we get. And as a result, we get disappointed, and then the list goes on, and we experience trauma, and it's just become toxic, right? So I think that our mindset and our expectations and the questionings that we ask ourselves as leaders are very, very, very important. The why, as to, okay, why are we doing this? Why is this time being spent? Why the emotional investment? The why is very, very important. Now, we could say all day because God told us to, right? Okay. So Dr. Elliott kind of challenged us to be truthful. And truthfulness is one of the art, is one of the step art that I've listed down here. So that's why I mentioned that there's a beautiful flow here. Okay. So the why is very, very important. The other aspect is we're not going to be able to let go if we are afraid.
Mm.
We cannot be afraid of loss. You see, a lot of us should have let go of some things many, many years ago, or even last year. But because we couldn't find a clear lens of how that will look, in our mindset, in our consciousness. And since it is confused, like we don't have a clear pathway, if that person is out of the picture, or if I'm out of the picture, what would that look like for me? And because of that, we tend to hold on longer. We tend to, create a narrative, create a story that makes sense to us, that validates our own insecurity to say that I need this, or they need me, right? So uh, if we're going to let go, then we have to divorce religion. Yeah. Because religion will say, all right, to stay is to be faithful. And my question to that is, faithful to who? Because when we look at, the description or the identity of God, right? We say that God is faithful, God is just. I was just teaching about this the other night. God is faithful, God is just, God is committed, right? God never throws anyone away. Okay. God is loving, God is caring, God is kind. All that God is, beloved, all of these items, we're supposed to first give it to us, not to others. Not to others. So So when we're talking about the art of letting go, we're saying that number one, let's take let's attempt to be faithful to us. Let us attempt to be kind to us, and the list goes on. Now, a strategy, I'm trying to hurry, a strategy to like a step by step is number one, be truthful to yourself, right? The other thing you want to do is to honor the other person, right? And honor yourself. If you are not exercising honor, you won't even be able to perceive when to let go. Okay? You have to have a clear expectation. Why am I here? Am I overdue? Or is it time for me to stay a little longer? We need to define those, right? The next thing I wrote down is to validate and affirm the task completed completion. Validate and affirm the task, not necessarily the person. We get so involved into people that we miss the big thing. We miss what we're supposed to do. We miss the mission. We miss the real thing. At the end of the day, the idea needs to be this: we cannot people please and lead effectively. Okay? So if you love me, it's okay. If you don't love me, it's okay, because the opinions of people should not dictate how I show up, beloved. At the end of the day, this Bible that many of you know very, very well, says that greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. So if I'm now waiting for someone to love me, love what I do, and love everything about me in order to determine how I'm going to perform, what kind of work I'm going to do, and if I'm going to show up in excellence or not, then you in trouble. Okay? If you're going to be concerned about who hate you, who don't like you, these are all acts, the art of letting go, because we have to let go in a way where not only is healthy for us, but healthy for the other person. I was told I have 5 minutes. I think I ran into my 5 minutes.
Am I muted? Okay. Okay. Yes, you did it, and you said there's so much. I've got so many notes. However, what I'm hearing you say, if I'm hearing you correctly, that what I got from this is that really the relationship is about yourself. Even if when you're in a relationship with someone, that it's really about yourself. Because a lot of times, two wounded people can come together, and by the time I realize I'm attached and I authentically know that this is not the right person for me. But then that person who's wounded themselves says, "But you're about to abandon me and trigger my issues." But it's more about not abandoning yourself. And maybe the relationship is about, for them, that trigger that you need help there. Is that what I hear you saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying, because we have to teach people not to trauma bond and not to take on other people's stuff. Leave their stuff, and you own your own stuff. The moment somebody tell me that they've been, or I perceive that, okay, I'm not going to make that decision, because if I make it, I'm going to hurt their feelings, right? The moment you put yourself in that equation, right, what you're doing is you are protecting, you have made a decision that person's emotion is more valuable than yours.
I know we're on time, but I've got one more quick question for you. But what if you're in a marriage and you don't, how do you say this is enough? Or I'm the wife or I'm the husband. I can't leave this person. But when is that point when it's you or them?
Yeah, when it reaches to the point where you are being emotionally abused and the word abuse can be that in itself could be a whole teaching, right? We don't have time to define it. But when an individual is being abused, and the abuse is systematic, the abuse is foundational. Like, you just show up, you don't even have to open your mouth, and there's something wrong. You see, now it's not that you are doing anything wrong or right. Your very essence, your very presence, okay, irritate that individual. It destruct that individual. When that happens, it's time to shift. Love yourself enough to say,
Got it. That was good. I like that. That was good. And when you feel you've got to change your essence for someone, right? I got it. That was great. All right. Thank you, Dr. Eves. We are going on to our last speaker today. Dr. Joe, I keep calling you Dr. Joe. There's something there. Every time I keep calling you Dr. Joe, but Joe Mayo is our last speaker today, and she is going to tell us about how letting go fuels resilient leadership. And the focus is the paradox of strength through vulnerability and the power of releasing control. That's a big one right there. Oh,
See, I was so excited. Well, again, good afternoon. Thank you to Dr. Regina for the opportunity to be able to share and to add value. Thank you, Margot, for that introduction. And as I sat here and I was listening to the prior speakers, each of them stated something that was a piece of what I was going to talk about within the topic, and which was a confirmation for me. So with that being said, so as we go from and so for me to stay on track, because I know me, I'm a big talker when it comes to leadership. So I do have my points so I can make sure I stay on track. But I did want to say, when we mentioned the transition from leading while bleeding, the total of leadership, and we transition into leading while bleeding, the science of letting go, is a great segue to the topic, of course, that I'll be talking about, the strength and surrender, and how actually letting go can fuel resilient leadership. So as we think about, even when we think about the term surrender, I mean, it can almost be petrifying to say, oh, I need to surrender, or even when we sing the song, I surrender all. But the term can be paralyzing because why? It challenges our deeply ingrained notions of what? Giving up control, our independence, which can, and when especially in leadership roles, these are things that, how can we lead without having some type of control? How can we lead with not having without us being independent? So I find that the paradox when we talk about the strength of vulnerability and the power of release and control stems from. So we want to understand, as it was kind of referred to earlier, when we talk about the root cause of things. So when we talk about the root cause of things, so for society, when we look at leaders, there can be this norm when we think of leaders. Leaders are, so they don't have this, we're not able to walk in authenticity and connection. Rather, we're looked at as, you're supposed to be perfect and what it is that you do and how you do it. And we're not able to be transparent and for that to be seen by our teams or those that we lead, because then that may diminish their belief in us and our ability to be able to do it. So I want to talk about, if that's one thing, then how do we actually overcome it? So if that's the narrative that we've heard from a societal perspective, then how do we actually overcome that? So I do want to share a couple of pivotal pillars that I have found over the years of my career, as well as business and coaching entrepreneurs in business. I do want to share these pillars as takeaways. So when we talk about the narrative of the societal norms of what it seems like and looks like what a leader should be, so we now need to be able to reframe the narrative from our own personal, to be able to reframe it. So the shift from the perception of surrender as in giving up, because surrender doesn't mean giving up, However, it means stepping up. And so, in order for us as leaders to be able to step up, requires us to be able to collaborate effectively with those that are surrounding us or those of whom we lead. So, we want to bring everybody in and create opportunities for them to grow so that we can leverage our ability to do our job effectively. So one of the things I want to talk about when we talk about leaders as well is that I think it begins with the leader when we look at a self-awareness, when we take an internal reflection, because we do want to inspect what we expect. So if this is what we expect, then we want to first have that self-awareness to look internally as well, so that we can deep dive into what areas that may be holding us back or barriers, so that we can deal with those and so that we can effectively model the way in front of those of which we lead. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about now, although I'm not a neuroscientist, and when it comes to stress and the levels and the impacts that stress has on the body, but these pillars of leadership that I found during, of course, my tenure, whether it was in corporate America or even now in mentoring and coaching businesses, is there are three. So first, when we think of a leader, in your mind, if you could think of someone you say, oh, they're a great coach, oh, well, they are a great leader, you will probably find these traits in them. And I'll go through these traits and I'll elaborate a little bit. So we'll find that is someone that models the way. It's like, oh, well, they're not just someone that talks it, but they walk it consistently. They inspire a shared vision. If there is a vision, it's not just on the wall. It's not just something that we talk about, but they actually walk it out. They also challenge the process. So it's not just about them, but they find a way to influentially bring others into the vision and to determine, well, why is it that we do it this way? Is it because we've always done it this way? Or do we have to continue doing it this way? Okay, is this something that we can let go of? So that's the third one. Number four is they enable others to act. And enabling others to act means we equip people with the necessary tool that empowers them to be able to do what it is that they need to do, so that we as leaders can pass that on to our team members, and we can kind of leverage each other's strength. So number five with me, what I would say is motivating the heart. So if you think of someone that's a great coach, or is a great leader, you'll find several of these characteristics, and you may find even all of those characteristics in there. But I'll pull out three of them. So one of them is empowering people. So how does we as leaders, how is strength and surrender and letting go for we as leaders? Well, for one thing, empowering people, as I just mentioned. So the role in letting go of empowering people, again, so that we don't have to be doing everything, we empower others, that we come together collaboratively and collectively to be able to achieve the outcomes that we expect. So empowering individuals means giving them the authority, the tools, and confidence to make decisions. It's almost like it drills down to, in my coaching, it's almost like it drills down to, in order for leaders to be able to be as effective and efficient and to operate as the face of the business, the face of the team, is that, again, equipping people with the necessary tools by effectively communicating. These are the expectations and the boundaries, because I find that if the expectations are not set up initially, and this can be with any relationship, this can be with our finances, this can be with the households that we lead, this can be employee, employer. If the expectations and boundaries are set forth up front, that can prevent pressure from being on the leader. Because why? We are empowering everyone. So this is a team of empowerment. So as the leader, surrendering a level of control by empowering the people that we lead. So therefore, we inspire, when I mention inspiring to share vision, well, we do that, of course, by communicating, of course, effectively. Now, when we talk about setting the expectations, so boundaries provide structure within which teams can operate autonomously by defining responsibilities, timelines, acceptable parameters. Leaders can let go without risking chaos or misalignment. So again, when I think about surrendering, that strength is that we can surrender can be strength, is that if we first take a look at ourselves internally to see what are the barriers, what are the things that we need to work on, that we address those first. Then we turn around and we inclusively, as well as collectively and influentially, empower others within our teams to be able to carry on also. And so that is a way for us to be able to let go, because again, one of the reasons why leaders don't want to let go is because it's like, well, nobody can do it like I can do it. But what does that do? That holds us back. And so again, addressing the root cause of the why, and then taking ownership and accountability for building ourselves so that we can walk that out in front of those of which we lead. So thank you. I wanted to condense that down. So I gave opportunity for a question to be asked.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And it's interesting how what you said, the last part of your presentation, we covered a little bit with Dr. Beasley, and saying that empowering,
Yes.
not to say that that Kamala Harris, VP's administration, did anything wrong or anything like that, but empowering deputies, because of course, running that race in that short a time and
Yes.
accomplishing all they did, I know Sister is tired. So when we're looking at empowering deputies, and maybe that could be a whole for next time, that
Mhm.
maybe we need to have some people empowered. But what opportunities now do you see are open for Black women in those spaces? For example, this one here where we're talking about what to do next after
Mhm.
you feel depressed and don't know what's quite ahead for us. So this is in the mental health space.
Mhm.
You as a business coach, and looking at different opportunities, in particular with Black women, and these are opportunities that are out there.
Mhm.
How do you think that we can navigate and maybe look at some of these spaces and say, maybe I can come in and create something where I can empower Black women here or empower Black women? Do you see opportunities in this space? While there are opportunities for different voices to come, and different experts to come and offer their gifts in offering how we move forward in this space, while there are still a lot of questions and uncertainty in this space we are in right here and now.
Yes, and definitely, I would definitely go back to the clear expectations, because as you mentioned, I don't know all the details behind it, but as you mentioned, with the shortened amount of time to be able to be out in front of the people and to really express the clear expectations, the clear boundaries, the clear, just making sure that people knew, and that people knew that. So it could have been, from my interpretation, if we have a shortened amount of time to be able to be out in front of the people, it's going to be very important that we come together to not only come together to inspire that shared vision, but in that us walking it out, and us modeling it also, but then being able to find those that we can, that have that necessary strength, that we can empower them to be able to operate and to be able to move, but to ensure first that they were clear of the vision. They were actually clear of the vision, because in order to execute on something, we must be very clear in what the vision is. And if there is not a time for that vision to fully come into manifestation, that could be, not on anyone's particular part, but it could just have been that amount of time to be able to convey that and demonstrate that to a degree that people understood it and could run with it.
Got you. And maybe taking what inspired you about the campaign to maybe pick up and look for an opportunity how you can help to carry on that work for her,
Yes,
for yourself.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
I
yes.
love
I
it.
would definitely agree. Yes.
I love it. My last question to you is that I know as a coach, a lot of folks come to you as they are burnt out. And as they, we talked about this the last time, and what do I do and how do I tweak? And it's the power of the pivot, I love to call it,
Mm,
right? As
mhm,
you are coaching folks through and letting them, having to maybe let go of what they thought their business would look like, where they thought they would be going, but you as a visionary in what you do, and you see the clear vision, what are some strategies that you use with your clients, and can maybe help us to know that, hey, it's that time, it's time to pivot? What are some of those indicators that you can give us that maybe it's time to pivot, that we should, that's perhaps where we are right now in our business.
Well, thank you for that question because here recently I had the opportunity where I have a client who owns who has actually made history and one of the within my area, one of the first African American women to own this type of restaurant. And so that's history. And so with us talking and coming in, and we were talking about strategies and how to be able to, of course, to pivot and to scale and to go to that next level. But as we drill down, and I find this as a common theme, as we drill down to the people, the processes, and the systems to have in place to make this happen consistently, it came back to the clear expectations and boundaries. And so what we did was we came back and we identified, within the area to ensure that the people were aligned, the processes were aligned. We went through each of the different areas of the people of their roles, and then to drill it down and to ensure that they had the clear expectations. They understood the vision. They could read the vision. They gave their opinion of what the vision was. We came together and collaborated as a team. But after that meeting, the clearly defined expectations that was given to everyone signed off on the boundaries so that they knew their roles, they were empowered. Here, a couple of weeks later, I mean, with the systems implemented and everything executed, there are great reviews in regards to the coming together and the strategy. And so now that person is able to step out into the community, has now even started another business as well, because then empowering the people by setting clear expectations and the boundaries and parameters for their roles, she's now able to go out and to do something else along with that.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. I know the fear comes into a lot when, it's like we thought we had a clear thing and this was a surefire thing and this is how it was going to go. I'm sure there's also fear attached to some of that as well. And thank God for people like you, who help walk us through those emotions and showing us where to let go and where you can even see more opportunity if you go
Yes.
this way, rather than just tweak it a little bit and
Yes.
have the courage to do
And
so.
just keeping in mind that nothing just happens. It is a process. So finding what works for you and then working through that process.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. Well, we've covered so much here. We want to give the opportunity for, some questions and all of the ladies to interact and, come together with their expertise. If you have any questions, please feel free to let us know in the chat if you're watching on Facebook. And so if we can get all the women back together, I just want to thank you all for all your wealth of information and experience and providing all of that for us today. Dr. Regina, I would just like to know your overall thoughts so far as we go to general questions. Love for you to chime in. You carefully selected all of these wonderful women, and just wanting to know how you feel as you see your vision coming to pass.
Well, right now, to tell you the truth, I'm ready to go under the blanket and scream.
Why? Why is that?
Oh, Lord.
There were just bullets being
Right?
sent my way,
Left, right, and center.
left, right, and center. The bullets were coming.
Yeah.
And, it got me to that place where as I'm listening, I said, "Oh my goodness! Please, Dr. Eves, what's going on here?" I said, "Okay, I'm not religious, so let me take this. I'm not religious." Oh, God. So I was able to. I had a little meltdown, but I'm okay. It was a good meltdown.
Right. You're all right.
Meltdown. I'm all right. It brought me to a place of reality where where I realized, listen, girl, it ain't all about that. You know, it ain't all about that. There's a place for that. But you know what? You got to get yourself together. You got to get yourself together because it's time.
Well, I have a question for you. This is a perfect
Woo.
perfect segue to the group discussion. I love that. I love that because this is exactly we're about to go on a topic that is trending across the internet, right?
Mm,
A topic and a story that is trending across the internet, and it directly has to do with trauma and the church
mm,
and religion and something that we all have either seen or experienced. Dr. Regina, I know this is something on a different scale you've experienced, but at the same time, it's still based on the way that it was that you were um, the way you were handled with it, how they handled you with it, still came from religious principles. So
mm,
we've all seen that young woman who was made to go up in front of the church and apologize for her pregnancy, apologize to the church, apologize to the pastor. We also saw after where the pastor came up and called her evil, and that that she's going through this time period where their mom will there will be no baby showers, grandma. We're not going to reward this evil behavior. We're not going to. So we talked about church trauma, and last time, is it Arlene, Althea? What is, sorry, correct?
Aretha. Aretha.
Aretha spoke about going through that trauma herself and being sat down when she got pregnant, and people weren't allowed to talk to her. People treated her different, and people treated her. And it took a long time for her to let go of that
mm,
trauma, church based, religious based trauma. So, even looking at this young woman, that this isn't just the church now, these are millions of people across the internet who have seen this story. And when they long forget it, she still has that in her mind. And also to add on to that, there were a lot of TikToks, a lot of Facebook posts. You saw women in their 60s, 70s crying, saying this is what happened to them. One lady who was 70 years old said she hid a pregnancy for 9 months until her water broke because it was the second pregnancy and she was afraid of the trauma. So we are looking at a lot of hurt that happens in the church and a lot that happens when you don't look out for you, or you can't see the value of you, or the value of you is being eroded and picked apart. I would like to hear from the group. Um, it has got the conversation going um, about what happens in these situations, especially with women. And we have not heard one word about the boy that impregnated her. Not one word. One, what would you say to folks in the audience who have gone through this type of trauma? I'd be interested to know what would we say to the leadership in how you handle this type of incident that happens without necessarily glorifying it, but that's still a person that's fragile, that's going through enough. How do you come to terms and deal with that as a leader? And what would you say to that young lady? What do you say needs to happen right now with that young lady if she could hear your voices? I will throw that out
Dr. Eve.
Okay.
there.
Thank you, Jerry, for volunteering me. Um,
I know this
first
is a lot
thing I
for
will,
everyone.
first thing I will say to her, I think she is absolutely an amazing warrior. I think that she deserves a medal, but beyond a medal, I want her to know that God, while she had to stand there and share things that apologize for something that she should not have apologized for, that God was watching her and waiting for her to put the mic down so God could hug her and God could embrace her as daddy and God could affirm her and validate, listen, baby, this is not who I created you to be. And but what I'm going to do with that is use it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to use your speech, the open forum that you had to do. I'm going to use your speech and use that external dialogue to heal not only you internally, but to heal millions. And thus, that's why now we're seeing it in social media. You understand? So at the moment, it was hard. It should never have happened. Okay. But when the Bible says all things work together for the good, there are no human strategists that can take a trauma like that and make something beautiful out of it, but God, but God. So on that day, she was standing by herself, but she wasn't alone. If we will look, I want to let her know that she wasn't alone. Anybody who have been raped, anybody who have had been rebuked and chastised by the church, you were not alone. Daddy was right there and waiting to love you back to life. That's what I would say.
All right, all right. Dr. Regina, we look at you as um, this, happened to you, but not by choice. But and I look at you, and I look at Sarah Jakes. Um, for this happened at a young age, but it was certainly not the end of your life. You look at you and this platform, um, two doctorates, two masters. Sarah Jakes, the platform she is on now and gone, and those are just two stories. What would you tell her and anyone else who has been in that position that it's not over? How would you encourage them under that theme?
You know, I when I look at my life and I listen to her story, I see me in a way, but not in front of the church. Mine was in front of the neighborhood and family members that had to, that brought the execution and my sentence without knowing the truth. And again, without having the guy there to so that they can question him as well. But I would love to say to her, sunshine, I love to call people sunshine. If you only know what will come out of this experience, that you would give God thanks, that you were chosen to be exposed internationally. And your exposure, your pain, your shame is what God is going to use to free the 50, the 60, the 70, the 80, the 90-year-old women that are still sitting there with that shame, were never able or given the opportunity to speak their truth because of what Dr. Eve said. Um, you can't be religious. This is not about religion. This is about life. And I'll tell her that your weeping may endure for a night, but joy is going to come in the morning after you have suffered a while. Because of this, the same situation is what God is going to use to lift you up, to settle you, as he said in 1 Peter verse 10, to establish you and to make you known as that young lady who stood there, took the shame, but never cowered and never fell apart. Because, as Dr. Eve said, God was with her. He had a plan. He has a plan. And she was chosen for that.
Like that. Dr. Jerry P. Beasley, labels, and handling a label that had been put on you, a scarlet letter that you feel has been put on you
Mhm.
because of circumstance. What would you tell her or anyone else that has had labels put on them to predetermine who they are? And how do you work through and let that go and set yourself free?
The comeback will be televised. And I can say that because it happened to me. I wasn't pregnant. I had a manic episode in a Baptist church. And I went there because I was hearing voices and I wanted help. And the pastor called me out. He called me a demon. They had me all on the floor. None of them had the Holy Ghost, and I didn't even have a demon, but I knew they didn't have it. And they were trying to cast out a demon, and they called me crazy, and they did all this, and they sent me home. I told my mother what happened. She took me right back up to the church. She said, "How dare you do this to my daughter? You must don't know who she is." She began to tell them who I was and what I did. And she said, "Don't you ever do this to anybody else again. And you remember her name because you will hear about her again." God would place it that, yes, I did go into a mental institution. Yes, I had to take a year to get myself together, but he put me on radio for over 35 years. And so the girl that was labeled crazy has been having a public platform ever since to show that I'm clothed and in my right mind. So I would say to her, it was put on Front Street because he's going to use it to put it on Front Street. So many will remember you and they will have that vision of what God can do, just like the man in the tombs. You know, when he came to himself, people should be afraid. They should be very afraid. So when she gets that revenge that God gives, because he will bring it back to their remembrance. This is the same girl. And then I would also say I would want somebody to touch that mother because no mother that I know would stand there and allow her child to be done like that. So maybe she was done like that and thought it was okay. So she needs healing and she needs deliverance as well. So I pray that somebody reaches out to those parents, to that mother who allowed her child to be done that way. But it will be televised and we won't forget her name because we'll see her again in a different light. And that baby that will be a grown person.
Yes.
Amen.
I love that. Amen. And it's interesting you say that because that's not the first story I've heard about mom. She is my mother, Dr. Dr. Robertson. That's not the first time we've heard that story in a church. And as a matter of fact, the church members were talking about it and never went to the parents and said,
Mm.
so the parents had a lot of pain too, saying, well, if you all noticed this, and if you all, for us, it was normal, and we're dealing with it. But if you saw this, why didn't you come to us? So yeah, they dealt with a lot too. So
Mm.
yeah, that's why these discussions are needed in the church. So needed.
Mm.
The church of today. Dr. Elliott, can you tell us about release and how one would release a stigma while publicly feeling shame? How do you begin to deal with that and accepting what happened and turning it around at the same time, and at the same time trying to smile and move forward?
Um, First of all, I would trying to process my emotion in hearing the story because anger rose up in me, and the anger is related to the body of Christ still being ignorant to the
Mm.
fact.
Come on.
The anger is from this is so ancient that they're still doing this, and we think that the body of Christ has advanced to a place to understand human behavior and not trying to ridicule, because I find that to be ridicule in someone, and to put someone up that way to repent before a congregation when the leaders, the very leaders themselves, are not repenting for their behavior. So it's a double standard that I
Mm.
am dealing with that, when I see things like that. Number two is this is a young lady that they're trying to scar. But I'm reminded also of a young woman who was impregnated, who was
Mm.
engaged, and the child was not the her fiance's child, and had to deal with that in the Bible. And so that story is now worldwide, that we read and that we it's history, and she made history. Is not many stories that's in the Bible or is written, but hers will be written because that was pointed out. So
Mm.
she made history. And so this is someone that you will remember, and you'll remember how she handled it, because she was obedient, even though she was obedient to what she was told to do, not saying she agreed. And so what we're not hearing is her, she's not allowed to express her emotion or
Mhm.
whatever happened. She's in a traumatic place where she not only she pregnant and she's unmarried, and then has to be exposed like that before a congregation of people who are heartless and call themselves believers.
Mhm.
And it's so not a Bible. So I believe I would let her know that you are very brave, because I'm sure she has insight. She is looking at them. But then what's going on with you now? What feelings are you getting from this? So we can tap into where she is emotionally and build her up from there, because now she leaves the place, she goes home, it's all on social media. So now there's no shame. There can be no shame at this point because of the fact that you're totally exposed. And so, how do you handle this? What is going on with you? And let's walk through this. Whatever you're feeling is real. It's a real emotion you're feeling because you were put on the spot. And how do you feel that the very person that partake in this is not even mentioned in this matter? And so it's to help her to work through those emotions, because it's something that you can't, she may end up hiding in the house or doing things, and then this can be a scar for life. Now we have to now walk her through the process, we believe it or not, to healed enough to say to forgive, because whatever feeling she has for her pastor, her mother, the fiance, whomever, all the people that were involved, even the body of Christ, because now it's like, do you feel like you're alone in the island by yourself? Because the whole world now has an opinion about you.
Mm.
What about your baby? Your baby, it's all these emotions that she is holding on to. And to let her know how strong you are, that you were able to do this, to stand, and something that is very private, you were able to stand. It takes a strong individual, but know that you were literally chosen for something like this, because you will be in history, and
Mm.
this is going to impact the nation. And how you handle this from here on, you have to be very truthful about your emotion, how you feel, acknowledge it, and get to a place where you can forgive and release it.
All right, all right. I love
Forgive
this because
and
it's
release it and let it go. So you will not carry this with you. You will walk with your head high, and so will your baby, because your emotion right now can affect your baby. And so we want you to get past this, and you can.
okay. Really quickly as we go to close out, I love this because it's a practical, we're using a situation and then the practical application of what you all spoke about. So, very quickly, and we're going to go right to Dr. Robertson after this. Very quickly, Dr. Eves, how does she deal with making the decision from the body that hurt her to the actual, but her relationship with God versus the
Mm.
relationship with the church and that type of attachment? Dr. Mayo, yes, I'm calling you deliberately Dr. Mayo. We're going to go right to you. Pastor needs some help. Can you give him and the leadership a little advice on how to maybe best govern the situation next time? And we'll go right to Dr. Robertson to close us all out. Dr. Dr. Abraham.
You did that so beautifully.
Yes. It was like,
Okay, Margaret, you are amazing.
No,
All
you
right, I don't
all.
even
I'm
know if I
feeding
remember.
one
I was
soul off of
amazed
all
by
of you.
how you did it.
All of you.
Okay, uh, okay, so I think what I was registering in your amazement is okay. So a trauma has happened to her,
Mhm.
right? Now, what she needs to do is change the narrative. She has to change the storyline. So you change the storyline by not ignoring what happened. So
Mhm.
the event happened at church, right? Put the mic down. Now change the story. What and you can't change the story with old content. You can use item from the old event, but then you have to now embrace, create new content of looking at the future. Now the future may be maybe gazy, right? You may not be clear for her, being her age, her stage of development and so forth, right? But she needs to create a narrative, different narrative. First of all, it wasn't God's people who hurted her. It was religion.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mindset, not a kingdom mindset, not biblical mindset. These people were far from what God Jesus would have done in this situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can't. I want us to not really shun the church, because in the description of what God will call the church, that wasn't the church. Okay, so now she could give herself permission, saying that okay, it wasn't all of that, so now I could change the narrative because these people didn't know what they should have known. Now I'm going to move forward. I need to make some decisions now. Decision making is the biggest treasure that every human being have, whether you believe it or not. If you can make a decision, there's no devil, no religion, no pastor, no leader can get you stuck. You can make a decision and get yourself out of everything. All right? Okay.
All right.
So with that being said, so as we talked about earlier, the paradox of a societal norm of that happening, and it has happened before. I'm quite sure we have heard other stories, but I would say to become, even as we talked about, to become strengthened through her vulnerability, is that now she's vulnerable because of not only the act of what has happened, but now from others knowing. And so now her shame, now she's feeling shame because now she's exposed to not only just internal but external as well. And so I would say number two, to take what looks like as failure and fail forward, to move forward and to come out of it and to separate the act from who she is. Because now in going through her vulnerability and going through the act and everything that happened, she now will become a leader amongst those that may be going through that same thing. So her example, she's becoming an example to be a leader of those people because she can feel can be in touch with the infirmity of those people. So now she will become a leader of people as well.
If pastor were to come to you to say, hey, I've got some issues, and because his church is a business too.
Yes.
So if
So
he were to come to you and say, Dr. Joe, Dr. Joe, can you tell me some things that I might need to tweak in my business, maybe to have the congregation grow? What would you say to the pastor who has these policies and procedures in their church? How would
I,
you address that? Some
I
things may
would
change.
I would say to the pastor, first inspect what they expect.
Mm.
I would say first inspect what they expect. And after they inspect what they expect, because first it starts with the leader. So to be truthful to what are the root causes of any issue that you have, identify those first and deal with those. Then second, I would say the leadership team. to take a look at your leadership team as well, and to have a level of transparency with your leaders as well, so that they can see your vulnerability as well, again, to a degree, and help them walk through it. And then third, I would say, take a look at your processes and systems that you have in place, again, to collaborate amongst the team, have everyone on one accord, and create a plan for whatever the outcome or the expected vision is for that church or for that organization. But I would say it first starts with the leader. We have to model the way, and if we want to be able to lead people to become their highest and best selves, then we first need to take that initiative and that ownership and accountability to align ourselves with the vision that we want people to follow.
Got you. Well, Dr. Regina, you're talking about bringing mental health into the church. So, and who better than you to close this out? And,
Amen.
what do some leadership need to know? What do some churches need to know? This is 2025.
Yeah.
Well, it's imperative for me to quickly say the reason why we are here today. It's because of that young girl that we're ending the discussion with.
Mm.
I was her,
Mhm.
but from a different perspective. But
Mhm.
the end result is that I was her.
Mhm.
And but I had to go through Samaria.
Mm.
I had to go through the process and deal with the shame, the abandonment, that I feel, why me? Why did this happen? It's and so on. But I've come to a point where I give thanks for the process. I give thanks for the process. I'm not bitter. So when I stand in a church and I speak, I let them know my truth. I am not ashamed of my truth.
Mm-hmm.
My truth is who I am. It
Mm.
has made me to be the woman that I am today. And it has brought out the passion in me that I was birthed with, that was placed in me, and got me now to 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 work my purpose, my divine purpose for why I was born. So when I look at what I do now, I can surely say I was born for such a time as
Mm.
this. The
Amen.
only thing I am cautious about is my children, because I don't want to put my children in a place where they would be ashamed or embarrassed. I love my children, and I don't want them to ever feel that I have any art against them, any bitterness or anything like that against. I love my children, and these are God's children that He gave me to birth for Him. He didn't tell me the process. He designed how it will be done.
Mhm.
But in spite of that, I have to let my children know that I'm here on a mission, and they're part of it. It may be painful for them, but they are part of it. But I have to speak my truth without blaming them or saying they had nothing to do with it. So the little baby that young girl is carrying cannot take any blame or shame. But God has a purpose for that baby, as He has a purpose for my children. You are here today as the moderator because I came out of the closet and I told my truth. So I'm not ashamed of it. And I will continue to tell my truth and let others know It's okay to stop hiding. Stop hiding. You can come out and speak your truth. And I will do that until the day my Father takes me home. To as many people I can speak with, I will continue to do this kind of work so that wherever my voice is heard and your voices are heard, we will give people the the that they have to be bold enough. It's
Correct.
about each one of you. As you were speaking today, you will say, it's about you, it's about me. Dr. Elliott said she got angry. She got angry because this brought up feelings in her. It hit a trigger in her. We're angry enough to speak up and say, enough is enough. We're not going to stand back anymore and pretend that it is well. So, as leaders, I thank you today for being yourself, speaking your truth, sharing your experiences with us, because I now will be leaving here with homework to do on me because I'm still healing. I have not yet arrived. Each day I'm working on me to be a better person.
Yes.
And I want to share that with you. I want to share that. And I thank you for sharing with me. And I thank those who were with us wherever you were today in social media. I want to thank you for taking the time to spend the time with us. And I pray that there was something said that will give you, that will trigger for you the need to let go and keep it moving. Keep on rising, and become the beautiful person that you were created to be. Heaven bless you, and see you next time.